Why It's Always the Navy. November 26, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. If you go to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and start reviewing patents held by the U.S. Navy, you will see some truly criminal and deceitful patented processes. Things that will make your hair curl and your blood boil. And it is all right there, in their own words, with their names and addresses on it. And then, the more you trot around the world, you realize that it is always the Navy causing trouble. Just like Britain, the Navy is always at the bottom of the dog pile. All roads in skulduggery go back to the Navy. Not the Army. Not the Air Force. It's always, predictably, the Navy that causes trouble. And there is a reason for that. The Navy is controlled on the high seas and navigable inland waterways by the British Monarch. That gives the British Monarch quite a wide latitude to curry influence and direct operations of the Navy, and to cause trouble for America and Americans. Over time, many senior American naval personnel get mixed up about who they actually serve and how this system is supposed to work. They even mistake such concepts as commander-in-chief of all military forces. Recently we have had several flare-ups of the Navy kind. 2 admiral-rank naval officers defied direct orders from President Trump and nearly caused a Bay of Pigs situation before being shut down. Now, the Secretary of the Navy has been fired by his boss, the Secretary of Defense. What it all comes down to is insubordination, thinking that because the Queen plays such a dominant role in naval operations out on the high seas, that her command structure is the important one. That, and forgetting who they all actually work for, the American states and people, which is a common problem both in the military and the federal civil service. As you study history, you will notice that there is a long and shady connection between the U.S. Navy, meaning both the territorial United States Navy and the municipal U.S. Navy, and all sorts of disastrous, corrupt, and politically motivated actions. Why was it that the municipal carrier fleet was saved and the old battleships were sacrificed at Pearl Harbor? What really happened with the Lusitania? The Titanic? The USS Liberty? The Boxer Rebellion? Hong Kong? The Bay of Tonkin? We've seen the gross abuses of FDR's administration in so many mirrors. Should it surprise us that the prime suspect and bone carrier of British ambition during World War II was the Navy, too? Should we be surprised that the United States Navy spirited our gold away to the Philippines for safekeeping? Or that the U.S. Navy carried all the paperwork associated with our phony birth certificate estates from Puerto Rico to Europe, just before Puerto Rico was devastated by a man-made hurricane geoengineered by the U.S. Navy? Oh, yes, they have the patents on all that, too. Or that the U.S. Naval Observatory was involved directly and indirectly with the 9/11 cover-up? Or that Annapolis has long been the seedbed of elitism and secret society activity in the U.S. military? Why was it a Navy task force investigating financial aberrations that was targeted during the 9/11 attack on the Pentagon? Should we be surprised that career officers in other branches of the service routinely refer to the Navy as Navy pukes? They aren't talking about seasickness. It's always the Navy. Don't even stop to check your watch. And unfortunately, with the Queen and the Pope working together hand in glove, the problems with the Navy are exacerbated 100-fold. Why? Because the profane religion of the Satanist liars is a sea-going religion, too. It started in the seaports of Babylon and traveled west to the shores of the Mediterranean at Baalbek near modern Tel Aviv, through Turkey and Greece on the north side of that sea, and to Carthage on the south. From Greece it traveled to Bulgaria and eventually to the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg. From Carthage it went to Rome, and from Rome to Ireland and Cornwall and Wales, and also to Portugal. The Phoenicians adopted this religion wholeheartedly, hence our use of the slang word phony to describe anything that is bogus, misleading, deceptive, or fraudulent to this day. The Dutch version of this profane religion settled in New York along with the rogue Dutch East India Company commercial fleet in 1702. The British version, the British Crown, was already here. Where was Satan cast down? The sea. Who invented liar's dice, liberty, as opposed to freedom, press ganging, and debtor's prison? Do you think that maybe, perhaps, there is a reason that withholding agents are all warrant officers in the British Merchant Marine Service? And who was it who made the bulk of their money trafficking everything, including slaves and tobacco, one of the original controlled substances that the federal government regulated and taxed for funding? It's always the Navy, just like it's always the Brits, and not least because the British monarchs have maintained an improper influence and control over the U.S. Navy, and have regularly abused this delegated power entrusted to them. Help support this work by visiting www.annavonreitz.com and look for the donate button. Links to this article and more can be found in the video description box.